Hey everybody, Andrew here. Just here to do another very quick, it's not really a review, it's more sort of an overview of one of my favorite things that I have. Now I've just actually noticed that there's a fly in this room and it's doing my head. Jeez, I got him. Sorry, just 1 second guys. Apologies for that. Quite impressed with that. First strike, got him. So all's okay. So anyway, back to what I was talking about. With all the bits and pieces I've been looking at recently, there's one thing which I haven't actually really shown or said much about, and I should have, because it is one of my favourite things. I use it all the time. It's at least once a day it gets a look in, and I tend not to bring it out with me that much because it doesn't have a tank on it. But you know, you could bring a bottle with you and sort of fill it up as you go. But anyway, I'll show it to you now, and this is it. And what it is the Pro Dripper from eBaron, which is from the House of Mods. And this one here is number 816. And if you excuse me, I thought I got that fly, and bastard, it's come back to life. Cam has descended. It's definitely gone this time. I didn't beat the living daylights out of it. It's actually out the window, it's gone. So hopefully that's that for the moment. So apologies. So getting back to this little beauty here anyway, the Pro Dripper. They do two different ones. There's the Pro Dripper and then there's the Spiral Dripper. They are essentially the same thing. They do exactly the same thing. They just look ever so slightly different. Now this one, as you probably see from the bottom, from these little dimples at the bottom, looks very much like a Provari, and that's why it's called a Pro Dripper, because what it does is it just sits absolutely beautifully onto a Provari. It's absolutely made for it. Got the same angles at the side. The dimples that you have here are the same as the dimples that you have on the bottom here. So it just looks the business. It's, you know, really terrific. Now what I'll do is I'll just go in close on it and show you how it is that you put a coil into it. I'm not going to go into the business of recoiling it because you need no res wire, the sort of combination between the no resistance and the resistance wire, and frankly I haven't got a joiner here and I'm not going to even try it. Luckily nowadays you can actually buy wire that's already been sort of pre-done that way, so I'll give you a link for where you can get that. But let's get a bit closer in on this thing here. So here it is, nice and close, the Pro Dripper looking absolutely beautiful on the Provari here. So what we'll do is I'll just take it off and I'll just show you how it is that you actually put a coil into it. It just unscrews in one place. There's no real complexity to this thing at all. So we take the top off, we're left with this. There's no coil in there at the moment. Inside here it's just a chimney, if you like. By the way, this will take a 510 drip tip into it. Some people just use it as it is. I personally just put a drip tip into it. I just find that slightly more comfortable, but that's my personal preference. So as you can see, there's just a sort of a plain steel drip tip, and that just pops in there, no trouble at all. So that's that part there, and then the working end of it is, again, it's pretty straightforward. What we have in here is we've got a center sort of air hole, and that's surrounded by an insulator, and then this cup that goes around that. Looking at the bottom of it here, there's your connector there. This doesn't screw up and down as far as I know. I've tried it in the past and it seems to turn, but it doesn't seem to really, you know, go anywhere. But I don't think, generally speaking, that's a problem. Let's just get a screwdriver out here. Flathead would be good. Yeah, if I turn it, let's just have a look here. as I turn it. No, it doesn't really seem to do anything. It still stays a little bit proud. Now that can, in some cases, if you haven't got an adjustable pin or a sprung pin that this is actually going down onto, sometimes that can mean that this is going to actually sit a tiny bit proud of the top of your mod. Now I have heard some people just basically filing that down a little bit, but I think in general terms it's probably okay. So that's that there. Now this, just put that down there, this here is a coil for it. Now what you have basically, just get up nice and close here, is a porcelain cup. So this is made of porcelain here, and then we have a coil, as you can see there, and then we have, it's 2mm wick as far as I know, and essentially what it is, it's a loop of 2mm wick. So basically what happens is, if you were to fold a piece of wick in half, loop it under the bottom and pull it over the top, you're going to end up with something like that. So what happens when you're actually coiling one of these, if you decide to go that way, but as I said, you do need to use no res wire on it, so you do need to have the two types of wires joined. Basically what happens is you get your 2mm wick, you fold it in half, you wrap your coil, and then see if I've got one here, because you can't really see it on that. Just 1 second. Sorry about that, back again. Here is one from a previous coil, because what I always do is I always hold on to the porcelain cups. So if you've a coil is fully gone, just, you know, pull the wick and the wire out of it, but hang on to the cup, because if you do start to make your own coils on these things, you obviously need this cup to be able to complete it. So as you can see here, there's two little holes there, and what will happen is that you have your wick, which is going through there, the two strands. It's looping down underneath here, as you can see on this one here. Some all fingers and thumbs. So it's looping around, looping over the top, and then the wires that are attached to there, that are coming off that coil, are actually threading down through those two holes. If you do go ahead and decide to make a coil for this, what you have to do is, or the easiest thing is, with your two pieces of wire that you thread down there, always make sure one of them is longer than the other. If they're both at exactly the same size, you have a real problem getting them through. Once they've actually gone through, then one wire is actually going to come out from the side. Let's see if we can see it there. It's coming out through that hole there, and the other one is coming out from the other side. So there are your two holes. The one that is coming out of one side will then get folded back into the center and pushed up into the middle. The other one stays sticking out of the side, and you'll see now why that actually happens. So here's a pre-bought coil. This is a low resistance one. Here's the base of the Pro Dripper. So literally all you have to do is, this little hole here has to basically go over that post in the middle there. So to do that, you literally just push it in. Now sometimes it can be a bit fiddly just to sort of make sure that it's sitting on it. Now what's really important here is, you can probably see, that wire that's coming out from the side has to come out through one of these slots, so that when you actually push it down, that wire goes down the slot like that. Sorry, I went out of focus. So now you've got this wire here, okay? And that's really important, because what you're going to do is end up clipping that wire off and then just running it into one of those threads there, which will then get caught by the top when you actually screw the top onto it. So that's absolutely critical that you do that. There's no point in having it, you know, sort of coming out of the side in there and then trying to work your way back around it, because you're just putting a huge amount of length on the wire, and that's no good. You want it going from its shortest point through the little slot at the side, and then just putting it around this way here. Now this way, going out to this side makes more sense because when you actually go to screw the top on, it's actually going to be screwing it on flat as it does so. Okay, so that's that there. Next thing we need to do is the wicks here need to go in down the side. Okay, so you can see the well there at the side, there and there. What we need to do is actually get those in there. So I'll see if I can do this on camera now. I'm going to change hands around. So what I would always do is just give it a slight twist, just so it doesn't unfurl, and then just poke it down a little bit. And once you've got it in a bit, that's enough to then get a little screwdriver out or whatever and just pop it in. There, you can see that. Now let's do the same thing on the other side, which is around here. Again, just give it a little twist, tuck it in like that, a little bit of a poke it down the side, and that is it. Very, very simple, literally only takes a couple of seconds. And just tidy that little bit up there. So all that's left to do now is to snip this little bit of wire off the side. What you need to do is leave a few mils, probably, I don't know, I'd normally leave about maybe, about 3 mils, 4 mils, something like that, just so that there's enough wire there to actually catch on that, because this is making one of the connections. So if we just take that off there, just snip it off, again, as I said, just leaving maybe even 4 or 5 mils, something like that. That kind of length should be absolutely fine. Now if you wrap it then down the side so that it's in one of the little threads there, that means then that when we go to screw this on, which we will do now, and just hold that in place as we screw it on, that is now firmly caught in the threads and all will be well. Important when you are screwing this back on as well, make sure it's good and tight, because if it's not fully tightened, you can actually get a bit of a leakage there. So let's fill it up and see what it's like. Now for this, what am I putting into it? I'm putting into it Paul Strawberry Kick, 12 milligram, really sort of zesty kind of a strawberry vape, very, very nice, very fresh. So what you would do with this is, again, really important with this, don't just put the liquid in the middle. If you do that, it ends up, pouring over the little coil in the middle there and going right down into the center. And that is not what you want. If you do that, you're going to start getting gurgles. Eventually they'll go, but it's just a complete and utter pain. To start this off from dry, you're needing about 15 drops, something like that. So what you want to do when you're actually pouring them in is put them down the side. So have this at an angle and then drop the drops in at the side and then just turn it as you're actually doing the drop so that you're getting a full coverage at the bottom there. And essentially what that does is that then just soaks the outer part where you've laid down those bits of wick, and naturally that will then wick into the center. But it just means that you don't have a load of mess in the middle of it, and it just means that you start off much cleaner. So let's do this now. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's have a look there, that's looking okay. 11, and again, as I say, keep turning. 12, 13, 14, 15. So that should do it. After this initial fill, let's just see, you can probably see some of the liquid in there, and you can see it's now started to wick into the center as well. So there's no reason whatsoever to actually go drop it straight in. It will make its way in there no matter what. After the initial fill, you know, subsequently when you're going to get a certain number of drags out of it before it needs to be filled up. About 5 drops is enough to actually fill it up subsequent to that. So you never put much more than about sort of 5, 6, maybe 7 drops into it. So that means that if you are going somewhere, you will need to bring a little bottle with you. But if it's in the house, you know, obviously a bottle to hand, and that's great. So let's stick it onto the Provari and see what it's like. Back on the Provari again. This coil is running at 1.9. So what I've done is I've actually set the Provari at 4. So general rule of thumb is that if you have an ohmage of a certain amount, if you add 2 onto it, that's usually giving you your voltage. In or around, I mean, you obviously need to change it sort of depending on certain juices, etc. But, you know, with a 1.9, you go to 3.9. If you've got a coil which is at 2.5, then just put it up to 4.5 in terms of volts. And that's usually a good, fairly good rule of thumb as to what will work. So pop this in here. So as I said, this is 1.9, I've got it set at 4, so just over 2 over the amount, if you like. And let's see what it's like. Bloody hell. This is, after all, strawberry kick. When you have some of these flavors in you know, some in cartomizers and some other machines, they tend to mute things back a little bit. But the one thing that this does not is mute stuff. You get very, 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 you know, if there's anything in the flavor, you're going to get it out of this. Now, within this, there is a kind of a slight mentholy, fizzy kind of thing going on. So, in fact, I'm going to turn this down because that nearly blew my head off. Let's put it down to, it's 1.9, so let's put it down to, say, 3.8. So just drop it by a couple, and we'll see what it's like this time. That's a bit more manageable. My eyes aren't watering anymore. As you can see, loads and loads of vapor coming off it. It's a terrific liquid, by the way, but this is just a cracking machine. It's very easy to put a new coil in. The coils are relatively inexpensive. As I said, you can actually buy the sort of pre-made wires now, and if you hang on to the cups after you've bought, you know, a set of 5 of them, and you've got 2mm wick, it's very, very easy to actually make new wicks as long as you've got the correct wire. And after that, it just goes. It's one of those things. It's fantastic. You can put, you know, that's a silver drip tip on it. Let's try that one. Sort of green. You know, any drip tips will work absolutely fine on it. But as I said before, a lot of people just like it as it is here. And it works fine. So, all in all, a terrific device. One of my favourites. I've had it a long time. I will continue to have it. I'd never ever get rid of this one. So it's the eBaron Pro Dripper. Also, there's the eBaron Spiral dripper. You can get them in e-Smoke Ireland. They're from the House of Mods. I'm sure they're available elsewhere as well, but one of the best around, and yeah, I just love it to bits. And that's it. Apologies for the little bit of an incident with the fly earlier on, but sure, what can you do? See ya, bye now.